We begin the news with the latest report from Borno State, where no fewer than 26 persons have been killed, with 3 others sustaining injuries following an improvised explosive device detonation along the Rann-Kala Balge Gamboru Ngala highway. Zagazola Makama, a counter-insurgency publication focused on the Lake Chad region, revealed that several civilian vehicles traveling from Rann in Kala Balge LGA ran into a series of hidden explosives. Makama said the incident occurred on Monday after the convoy veered into a zone where the IEDs had been strategically placed. The publication noted that the IEDs were triggered by the movement of vehicles, adding that emergency personnel were swiftly deployed to evacuate victims and administer first aid. Away from that, the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has resumed at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Now, the court, led by Justice James Omotosho, has granted the federal government's request for witnesses to testify behind screens for security reasons. The defense counsel, led by Kanu Agabi, noted the presence of 22 team members, but the judge approved only 13. A Department of State Services officer known as AAA testified behind a screen recounting Kanu's 2015 arrest at the Golden Tulip Hotel in Lagos. He describes Kanu's resistance to arrest and the discovery of broadcasting equipment in his hotel room. Now, the items were later listed and confirmed by Kanu as his property.
The witness brought in by the federal government, that is the prosecuting counsel, is a DSS officer identified as AAA. Now, upon commencement of giving his testimony, he said that Nnamdi Kanu was arrested sometime 10 years ago in Golden Tulip Hotel in Lagos. And when they got to the hotel, the question if there was anybody named Nnamdi Kanu on the guest list of the hotel, where the hotel manager and the attendees at the hotel are reception told the officer that there was nobody bearing such name. So they referred back to their bosses from the HQ, and the bosses told them that Nnamdi Kanu was confirmed to be in that hotel. Now, upon discovery, they went ahead to conduct a room-to-room search, and they saw Nnamdi Kanu in room 303 with a lady, according to the witness of, according to the testimony of the witness, named AAA. And based on what they said, the court asked them to provide the exhibit which they saw with Nnamdi Kanu. And I must tell you that the witness confirmed that the room Nnamdi Kanu lodged was like a radio station, because he had several broadcasting equipment with him, and they took some of his suitcases from 10 years ago. And upon opening those suitcases, they discovered there were personal items like cash, credit cards, wristwatches, perfumes, and toothbrushes. And notwithstanding, the court was like, oh, we've seen that, go ahead. And then the defense counsel, that is the person of Kanu Agabi representing Nnamdi Kanu, asked for a later date to cross-examine the witness, and the court granted them Friday, May 2nd, for a cross-examination of Nnamdi Kanu, of the witness testifying against Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, that was an earlier update from our correspondent, Joshua Imarai. Now, still on judicial matters, a Federal Capital Territory High Court in Apo has dismissed an application filed by Godwin Emefiele, the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, seeking to reclaim an estate seized by the federal government. On December 2nd, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission secured the final forfeiture of an estate in the FCT. Now, the estate, located at Plot 109, Cadastral Zone C09, Lokogoma District, covers 150,500 square meters in the country's capital and contains 753 duplexes. Now, although the estate was initially linked to the company that later denied ownership, Emefiele filed a motion as an interested party in the suit. The former CBN governor sought an extension of time to apply to set aside the interim and final forfeiture orders made by the court in December 2024. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on Tuesday arrested businesswoman Aisha Achimugu at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Achimugu was reportedly arrested around 5 a.m. shortly after her return from London. She had been declared wanted in March by the EFCC over allegations of criminal conspiracy and money laundering. Now, Monday, the Federal High Court in Abuja, presided over by Justice Inyangekwo, had ordered her to appear before the EFCC on Tuesday and also to appear before the court on Wednesday, April 30, 2025. Her lawyer, Chief Chikosolo Ojukwu, confirmed her arrest. Ojukwu criticized the EFCC's action, describing it as a violation of a court order. He further disclosed that Achimugu had commenced a hunger strike to protest what he termed a breach of her fundamental rights. As Nigeria inches closer to the 2027 general elections, opposition politics appears to be facing renewed challenges. Now, the recent defection of Ifeanyi Okowa, the PDP's vice presidential candidate in the 2023 election, alongside Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborewori to the APC, has further reshaped the political landscape. With many major opposition parties battling internal crises, questions are now emerging over the strength of any credible third force. In the midst of this, the Social Democratic Party, that's the SDP, appears to be one of the few opposition platforms yet to be engulfed in crisis. Now, joining us to discuss these developments and the way forward for Nigeria's opposition is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Shehu Gabam. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, on the news.
My great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Now, in light of recent defections from the PDP to the APC, including that of Ifeanyi Okowa and Governor Sheriff Oborewori, how do you assess the current strength of Nigeria's opposition ahead of 2027?
Well, as somebody that have been part and parcel of restoration of democracy from 1999, you know, we galvanized this country to ensure that democratic institutions are being strengthened, the rule of law are being strengthened, internal democracy are being strengthened. I find it very disheartening in a situation where people are being somehow coerced for one reason or the other, or simply because they have been in public office. They breach one or two processes, they are under investigation, and they become a soft target for political instrument and coercion to leave their own parties to join another party. This is not just the first time it is happening. It started during the PDP government, where governors, due to insecurity or due to fear of the unknown after leaving office, most of them that are in second time as governors defected to the PDP as of then. A lot of them defected to PDP. So it is the same old tactics that is applying today. It wasn't as if it's a new innovation or a new system of defection from one end to the other. But if you look at it largely statistically, the defections largely do not affect the outcome of the results, because largely most of the governors of today are detached with their own people, and they are not likely to influence anything much. You are dealing with a situation of large-scale insecurity, large-scale poverty, weaponization of poverty, balkanization of the Nigerian state into different fragments of ethnic, religious, and regional considerations. It is not good for the country. It doesn't speak well for the country. It doesn't speak well for the image of the country internationally. We should allow democracy to prevail. We should allow internal democracy to prevail. Largely, some of these crises you see in political parties are induced by most of the elements that are around the corridors of power. And what they don't know is that the more you create crises in political parties, their own parties will end up in crisis more than any other party. PDP is there as a case study. You know, it wasn't because APC defeated PDP. It was internal revolt within the PDP that led to the defeat of PDP. It wasn't because APC defeated PDP as of then. But every effort for us to have internal democracy in PDP then failed. And all of us decided to leave and build another platform that would be a national platform. So it's a primitive idea in a democracy where people want to hold on to power at all costs, even when they are not popular.
Well, speaking of internal democracy, does the SDP see itself emerging as the rallying point for disenchanted opposition figures?
What we do is we provide a platform not just to withhold or to undermine any system. Nigeria is a country that belongs to all of us. Elections are periodical events that happens to elect president and other people in various...
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Well, just before the break, we were speaking to Mr. Shehu Gabam, the Social Democratic Party National Chairman, on the series of defections and also internal party politics before we lost him. Well, thank you so much for rejoining us, Mr. Shehu Gabam. Now, just before we let you go, I would love to ask one more question. With the APC expanding its reach and also consolidating its dominance, what is the SDP's strategy to remain relevant and also competitive ahead of the 2027 elections? All right. So we apologize for that. We will move on from that. Meanwhile, one of the promoters of the cryptocurrency trading platform Crypto Bridge Exchange, better known as CBEX, has been taken into custody by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission after the accused turned himself in. Adefowora Abiodun surrendered to the anti-graft agency on Monday following a ruling by Justice Emeka Nwite of the Abuja Division of the Federal High Court approving the EFCC's request to arrest and detain 6 CBEX promoters. Now, this decision is pending the conclusion of the investigation into the alleged offences and potential prosecution of the individuals declared wanted by the EFCC. He, along with 5 others, were declared wanted by the EFCC on Friday over the CBEX Ponzi scheme that swindled thousands of Nigerians out of their money worth over $1 billion. Now, joining us for more on this, we have lawyer and social reform advocate Evans Ufeli. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Evans.
My pleasure.
Now, Evans, are you positive about Abiodun's surrender? Do you think it'll lead to any sort of meaningful outcome?
Well, he has taken the first step, which is the very important step to turn himself in for investigation and for possible unveiling of what exactly they were doing. I mean, it is the public and the media that have called it a Ponzi scheme. Court cannot rush to call it a Ponzi scheme until the court have seen the intent of deceit or fraud in this whole business. So it's good that he turned himself in because through investigation and through profiling, it will give the law enforcement agencies some level of insight into whereabouts of those large, and it will also help them to prepare for their case very well if they are going to have him or if they are going to keep him in detention while getting the ones at large, whichever decision they tend to take. The most important thing is that one among men, have been arrested and is undergoing profile.
Okay. Now, the weight of the offense we're looking at, here is quite massive. How convinced are you about the EFCC proving its case in court and bringing justice and closure to victims?
Yeah, for criminal prosecution, like you know, is going to be penalty. For criminal prosecution is penalty, except he wants to do plea bargain, wherein he intends to return the money if the monies are still there. But otherwise, for criminal prosecution, the court's target is punitive. Punitive in the sense that if he's found guilty, he's going to go through some level of terms of imprisonment. That is the target criminal prosecution. except he opted for plea bargain, wherein he's surrendering the whole money or part of the money that was taken. Okay, so the only other way the victims get their funds is to bring action against them if they ever gotten, or if, but that's quite a far cry because they are on it already. I mean, the one that is arrested is the one that will determine whether or not they will really get their funds back. Otherwise, for criminal prosecution, as I said, it's just for punitive measures.
Okay. Now, Ponzi schemes have always been here, and so are its victims. How do we address that? Say, for example, in terms of values and also orientation.
Well, yeah, the people must be sensitized. Okay, there's a need to sensitize the public very well on issues of investment and how they should scout for safe investment. A lot of people are all over the place teaching, not just the Ponzi scheme. There are so many people online who are teaching and selling different kind of courses and all that. Many of them are fraudulent, okay? And the Ponzi scheme, the way we jump at it, because they keep a bait at the entrance level of it. You find so many people reading the benefit of investment, and it attracts the public to that spot. And that is when they will strike. Okay, when they have collected enough money, that is when they'll strike. The mode and the pattern is the same. And I am surprised that today Nigeria are still putting money in this kind of thing. Funds they ought to have used for other purposes. And it has a way of hurting the economy because people putting money in the wrong direction, which they will lose eventually. I mean, if the court track them and convict all of them, there's no guarantee that that will come back. They will just see a terms of imprisonment, and the next time you are bringing an action again, they will tell you you have served their term of imprisonment already. Except maybe civil suit, for which these ones who are on the road, you may not be able to do that. So the best way to handle the situation is it has to be preventive. And preventive will mean that the public must know. They must be able to identify Ponzi schemes, and they must be able to identify fraud. They have been in it for so long, from MMM to so many of them, where people, lost a lot of money, and they are still losing till date. So it tells you that is either something is wrong with this society or something is wrong with the people or the government. But I know something is wrong. For people to keep doing the same thing over and over again, and I see the same result, something was the wrong way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for speaking on this, Evans.
A pleasure.
Now, moving on, the House of Representatives' recent move to amend the Constitution and ensure all election petition tribunal cases are concluded before the swearing-in of elected officials is generating strong reactions across the country. While many view the bill as a step towards ensuring electoral justice, others raise concerns about judicial capacity and political will. Our correspondent Joshua Imarai tells us more.
A proposed amendment to the Nigerian Constitution bordering on cases before election tribunals across the country is sparking national debate. The bill, which has passed second reading in the House of Representatives, seeks to stop the swearing-in of elected officials until all election petition cases against them are resolved. For some, it is a necessary step that could ensure fair play and prevent abuse of office.
When people are sworn in before you finish with litigation, the tendency that you embolden certain persons who are already sworn in, and you also give them direct access to public treasury to fight their opponents, is something fantastic. But the question you want to ask is, will people in the National Assembly be courageous enough to heed to this message as often advanced by advocated by civil society?
But not everyone agrees with this move. At the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, concerns were raised about the reliability of the nation's judiciary.
The court that you are not sure of, you are independent, you are not sure of your objectiveness. You are not, that can easily be swayed. So it's better we conclude our electoral process and allow people that win the election to govern before any other thing.
Despite these concerns, others insist that delaying swearing in until all legal battles are concluded is essential to preserving democratic integrity, citing examples of prolonged disputes in states like Imo and Bayelsa.
When people take over government, they use the instrument of government to defeat any effort to remove them from power, including threats and old bribery and corruption. So there's no reason why we should have somebody in power and matters pending against them. If you look at the US and elsewhere, there were over 100 suits filed by Trump in 2020. They were all cleared before Inauguration Day.
The bill before the House has now been referred to the Constitutional Review Committee. However, some believe that for the proposal to work, it must be accompanied with judicial reforms.
So the court is so powerful. What we are urging the court to do is use that power on behalf of truth and justice and for democracy. The court has the power to remove anybody who came to power, wrongly, whether he has spent 2 years or but we should carry out reforms to ensure that all cases are determined before anybody gets sworn in.
As Nigeria look ahead to future elections, many agree that all citizens must be subject to the nation's laws and elections must be conducted with every citizen given a level playing field. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
The Consulate General of the People's Republic of China in Lagos, in key collaboration with key Nigerian and Chinese institutions, has hosted the second Lagos Forum Conference, a strategic gathering aimed at strengthening infrastructure development, boosting production capacity, and promoting cooperation in green and digital economies between China and Nigeria. News Central correspondent Israel Eferobo has details.
The conference themed Infrastructure and Production Capacity Cooperation, Empowering Industrialization via Characteristic Project between China and Nigeria, Green and Digital Economy, brought together policymakers, business leaders, diplomats, and scholars to explore innovative pathways to bilateral and continental partnerships.
Lagos State aligns strategically with the commitments made, particularly in areas of infrastructure, financing, industrialization, human capital development, and trade expansion. We see immense opportunities to further our collaboration with China, leveraging platforms like FOCAC to drive significant growth, significant investments, technology transfer, and sustainable growth.
China and Nigeria.
Ms. Yang Yuhing, Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Lagos, reaffirmed China's commitment to building stronger economic bridges with Nigeria and Africa, emphasizing mutual respect and shared opportunities.
China and Nigeria have a very big potential for deepen our cooperation, not only like a traditional area, infrastructure, agriculture, but also in some new field like digital economy, like the agricultural modernization.
We must partner with China to ensure that we have at least 70% electrification in Nigeria. We must. And secondly, we also need to engage the Chinese to ensure that our enterprises, entrepreneurs, have access to at least a single-digit interest loan facility.
Representing the Director General, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, Professor F.M. Ubi, Director of Studies, stressed the need for strategic dialogue and a focus on new economic models to ensure the success of the next phase of China-Africa cooperation.
I'm very happy that our president, some few months ago, last year, September, went to China and he signed a lot of other MOUs, which has actually elevated our relationship from just strategic partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership kind of relationship. But what does that mean? That means it's going to take into consideration a holistic areas and sectors that prior to now we have not engaged with them.
Well, it's to begin to do the right things. Okay, so today the balance of trade is a deficit on Nigerian side, and that's because we're not producing enough. And most of our imports from China, they're finished products. So how can we change the narrative such that we are maybe importing partially finished or raw materials and then add value locally?
Why is China began the largest industrialization? I think maybe first one, if one country push the industrialization, first of all, your political, you should be a very strong political. You want a central governance, so you can collection all the material. Second one is you should be accessibility. Political system is important.
I think it's worthy of...
At the end of the forum, both countries appear poised to chart new frontiers of partnership rooted in mutual growth and innovation. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Ife-Robo.
Residents of Nigeria's federal capital have expressed different reactions following the verdict delivered by an FCT High Court, which sentenced the husband of late singer to death by hanging following a protracted case bordering on culpable homicide since 2022. Our correspondent Joshua Marai spoke to residents on the streets of Nigeria's capital, Abuja, to gauge public sentiment on the judgment. Here's his report.
The long wait for justice in the death of popular singer Osinachi Nwachukwu came to an end today as the Federal Capital Territory High Court delivered its verdict. In her ruling, Justice Njideka Nwosu Iheme found Osinachi's husband, Peter Nwachukwu, guilty of culpable homicide in connection with her death on April 8, 2022. Meanwhile, residents across the FCT have begun reacting to the judgment.
I think justice for the woman, right? He deserves whatever he did to her, even double, because no man should beat a woman. In fact, no man on earth should beat a woman, not to the point of death.
Justice must take its course, but at the same time, mercy could also be applied. But for people to learn their lessons, the man went overboard. If the stories we heard concerning the deaths that led to the death of Osinachi was actually he committed it anyway, he has been sentenced to death. That means which he committed it.
When I heard the story that the husband is beating her and just battering her, it's it's unheard of. It's not really good at all. So, and I think it's a good thing. At least if this country can continue like this, yes, we'll get justice for every evil or any harm that is done to anybody.
While some welcome the judgment as a fitting punishment for the crime, others expressed divergent views, particularly on the issue of the death sentence.
Killing him won't bring her back, and I don't think it will bring the family peace in any way. And I don't support death, like people killing other people. I think only God has the right to do that.
As a woman, my advice to all the females, when you get married to a violent man, instead of you to sacrifice your life for the marriage, it is better to quit the marriage. So don't endure the pain. That I think it's advisable to leave marriage than to give yourself to ghost.
The verdict has sparked fresh conversations about domestic violence and justice in Nigeria, as many believe the judgment will serve as a deterrent to would-be perpetrators. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Dr. Mike Adenuga, chairman of Globalcom and Corn Oil, on his birthday, praising his resilience, business acumen, and philanthropy. In a statement issued on April 29, Tinubu describes Dr. Adenuga's journey from humble beginnings as a symbol of vision and hard work, lauding his success across banking, telecoms, oil, and gas. Now, the president highlights Globalcom's impact in revolutionizing Nigeria's telecom sector through per second billing and commended Corn Oil's role in promoting energy independence. He also praised Adenuga's philanthropy through the Mike Adenuga Foundation and acknowledged his continental impact, noting the honors he has received from France and Ghana. President Tinubu prayed for Adenuga's continued health and wisdom, celebrating his contributions to Nigeria's progress and prosperity. Tensions have remained high across Burkina Faso a week after authorities announced that they had foiled a major coup attempt aimed at toppling the military junta led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Now, the government disclosed that the plan to overthrow the administration was uncovered after security agents intercepted communications between a senior military officer and terrorist groups. The intercepted plans allegedly involved an attack on the presidential palace on April 16, 2025. Military vehicles now guard the entrances to key facilities, while cabinet meetings at the presidential palace are held under heavy security involving sniffer dogs and aerial surveillance. Now, local media reports indicate that a scheduled meeting of army officers on April 22nd was abruptly postponed and later cancelled after invitees failed to appear, fueling suspicions and anxiety within the ranks of the armed forces. Amnesty International has condemned the Kenyan government's pressure to cancel a local screening of the BBC documentary Blood Parliament, calling the move futile given the film's widespread online reach. Now, the organization also demanded public accountability from the National Police Service and Kenya Defense Forces over the documentary's findings. The BBC said the screening was cancelled due to official pressure. The film, aired by BBC Africa Eye, identifies uniformed officers allegedly responsible for fatally shooting unarmed protesters outside Parliament during the June 2024 anti-tax demonstrations. Over 60 people were killed during the crackdown. Despite repeated police denials, Kenya's Independent Policing Oversight Authority confirmed 41 of the deaths under review involved gunfire.
Kenya's section outlines a sustained crackdown on civil liberties. This includes the use of excessive and unnecessary force by the National Police Service during the 2024 nationwide protests. Updated figures indicate that at least 65 individuals, Kenyan citizens, were killed, 89 persons were forcibly disappeared, and thousands were arbitrarily arrested. We now demand and join several other organizations to demand that the National Police Service and the Kenya Defense Forces act and publicly state the actions that they are taking with regards to the findings of Blood Parliament, the BBC documentary that identifies 2 state security officers suspected to have killed Erickson Mutisia.
Tunisian President Kais Saied on Tuesday condemned what he described as comments and statements by foreign parties over the controversial mass trial involving dozens of opposition figures. In an official statement, President Saied said the remarks amount to blatant interference in Tunisia's sovereignty and internal judicial processes. He pushed back against criticism over the lack of international observers at the trial, suggesting Tunisia could equally send observers to those countries demanding reforms to examine their own legal systems and procedures. The backlash follows a court ruling earlier this month which handed down lengthy prison sentences ranging from 13 to 66 years around 40 individuals, including politicians, lawyers, and business figures accused of conspiracy against state security and links to terrorism. The trial has drawn strong criticism from the United Nations and Western powers, including France and Germany, who raised concerns over due process and human rights. On World Wrap, shops began reopening and people returned to the streets of Madrid on Tuesday as power was restored to more than 99% of mainland Spain. Now, the country was plunged into darkness on Monday by a massive blackout that crippled large parts of the Iberian Peninsula. Millions were left without electricity, phone service, or internet access. Trains ground to a halt, passengers were stranded, and hundreds were trapped in elevators as emergency crews responded to widespread disruptions. Parts of Portugal were also briefly affected by the outage. Now, authorities are still investigating the cause, while officials praised the rapid efforts of technicians who worked overnight to bring the country back online. In business, CSCS ended 2024 strong, driven by innovation and resilience. Now, its leadership shares key success drivers, 2025 outlook, growth plans, and a deepening commitment to sustainability and long-term stakeholder value. Peter Medunoye, Chief Financial Officer, CSCS PLC, described the company's 2024 performance as impressive, citing a 27% revenue growth to 26.1 billion naira and a 24% rise in auxiliary income driven by efficiency, optimization, and empowering investors to do more.
For financial year, absolutely impressive. We actually grew the top line year on year by 37% to 26.1 billion in 2024. Driven largely by impressive growth that we saw around our fee-based income. Our fee-based income actually grew by 62% year on year. Also, our ancillary services also grew by about 27%, majorly driven by business automation as well as optimization of product and services, just to make sure that we continue to deepen the liquidity around the market.
In the world of sports, Arsenal have ambitions that extend well beyond reaching the Champions League semi-finals, coach Mikel Arteta said on Monday, ahead of the first leg of their last four tie against French champions Paris Saint-Germain. Now, Arsenal produced an inspired display to knock out holders and record 15-time winners Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, 5-1 on aggregate. It will be Arsenal's third Champions League semi-final appearance and their first since they faced Manchester United in 2009. Arsenal, unbeaten for more than 2 months across all competitions, will hope to repeat their 2-0 win over PSG in the league phase in October. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. You heard that at least 26 persons have been killed and 3 more wounded in bomb explosions in Borno State. You also heard that court has approved federal government's request for witnesses to testify behind screens as Nnamdi Kanu's trial resumes. Finally, we told you that security has been heightened in Burkina Faso as government locked down military barracks following failed coup in March. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.